So we know now we're in the Welsh countryside,
Who
in
are?
the castle,
No,
rather than
Welsh.
the
Oh yeah,
what did I say?
Jackie Dar.
Yaki da to you as well. Um, what does that mean? I sort of know what that means, but I
Is it
don't
hello?
know.
I don't know.
So this is series 20 of I'm a Celeb. It started Sunday night, as is the tradition. It will play on for 3 weeks. 10 new celebs, massive overnight ratings. As just like Matt and I, people were curious as to how the move from Oz to Wales would play out and how different the show would feel. Any news on Yucky Dar?
It means to your health or cheers.
I feel we can move on now.
Do you want to talk about because we watched the I don't know what was it called. There
A
was a sort of
jungle story.
jungle story which you thought would just be another clip
I thought it
show,
was like a best of clip show,
best
yeah.
of. But in actuality, it was more than that because it was Anton Deck wasn't commenting on some of the show's biggest moments, and then actually like new footage of them taking part in trials.
Yeah.
Sort of one of the sort of more fascinating things for me was seeing them like actually prepare for the show,
Yes,
and you know
rehearsals and
rehearsals
getting up
and
at 3 in the morning and
yeah.
makeup trucks
Yeah,
and yeah.
yeah, and I liked all there was the bit where he was talking about Helen Flanagan seeing her in the airport, and that's who made Mummy's life a living hell.
Yeah.
Things like, what did you enjoy it? Did you like the?
I did enjoy it, and I think it showcased the best of what that show is, and Anton Deck have a real fondness for it, and that comes across. And I found it was just a fun, as it was billed, a fun trip down memory lane. And actually, when it got to the end, I was like, well, there's no way that Wales can compete with it, because you realise, how different it is. It's drenched in sunlight, and they're out in the wilderness, and they're dropped from here and everywhere, and it looks really fun. And then this started, and almost immediately I was less engaged. How did you feel?
So, well, we said, didn't we? I don't know if you're going to keep this in, but
No, I did keep it in. Yeah.
our prediction, or my prediction anyway, was that there wasn't anyone who was particularly that I was particularly interested in seeing what they would be like. There
No.
wasn't someone like a Caitlyn Jenner who, we'll see what they're like sort of when everything's stripped back, or there's
No,
not
I wouldn't
there's
like
not
to see that
someone who
personally.
is a sort of crier or a screamer or
Or
someone
just a
who
known troublemaker. Or
troublemaker or and I suppose in this one as well there's no one from reality TV who knows how to sort of create a story. All these people are most of them are either actors or athletes, really, aren't they,
mm,
in the entertainment industry. Yeah, and it really was, and I was thinking, normally you'd be watching them sort of try and sort of step on a plank outside a car park for the majority of the opening episode. Normally,
yeah,
when
but
they're in Australia,
they'd be up high, and there'd be
mm,
danger, and there'd
yeah.
be wind,
The
and yeah.
I suppose it was sort of into almost three chunks, wasn't it? We had them getting all their packs on doing some abseiling, and
Mm.
then we had them sort of settling in, and then you had the first trial, which how will they do, and
Fine.
fine, yeah, 7 stars out of 10. Beverly Collard's a bit slow, but she's in her 60s. I think it's
Yeah,
understandable.
yeah.
And that showed, we've got teamwork, we've got unity. The biggest talking point was this Radio 1 DJ I've never heard of being sick. And
Yeah.
and I think the cynic in me immediately went, well, then he'll get voted to do the first trial, and
And he
then he got
was.
voted to do the first trial. I
And
think
he
the
will
thing
be
with
forevermore if he
and
doesn't
I
do well
and
on the
I
first
think
one.
I think the thing with I'm a Celeb now is we've seen it so often. People have grown up like AJ, who looks like a child who's won a contest to be on the show. Um, have grown up with it and know the tricks, know how to get more screen time. But
That
yeah, no,
being said, we didn't see an awful lot of him
no, 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 no,
in that.
no. But as an example, someone who's
Yeah,
because he's what, about 24,
yeah.
and this is series 20. There was no one who I thought they're in. Mo Farah's the biggest name, but he's quite dull,
Yeah, he's
and
incredibly dull.
Shane Ritchie tries his best, and again, it's Ant and Dec who make the show, and I think that's it. And even they struggled, I think, a little bit.
I think it lost something.
Do you think? I suppose if it was last year's cast, or say, I think most people sort of best year. There a lot of people, just talking at work or what have you. The 2010 series where you had Gillian McKeith and Stacey
Mm,
Solomon
mm.
and Sean
Dom
Ryder,
Jolly.
Tom Jolly, Jenny Eclair, etc. And if that cast had been transported into this setting, do you think it would still work? Is it the cast, or is it the setting, or is
I
it a
think
bit?
it's a combination. I think it, and I also wonder. I mean, we're only talking day one here, and day one is traditionally always the blandest because they've got no reason not to dislike each other. They're all lovely, all trying to make a nice impression, and they all want to do well. So the first one, in retrospect, isn't the best to review. It just felt a bit lackluster, and I think because that a lot of that is down to that it's all dark and dreary. Even their living quarters are quite
But then,
dark and
but then
dreary.
it's dark and dreary in the jungle. They always get there late at night. It's always dark. It's always raining. You don't get a lot of sunlight in most of the scenes. Certainly on the first day. I don't think for me that didn't
I just
matter.
wonder as well whether because of where they are, they're just going to get it easier, and so
I
it won't
don't
get to
think
that
so.
tetchy.
I
That was
yeah.
my wonder.
No,
That was
no,
my
I wouldn't
thing.
have
Whether
thought so. I think they're going to try and make it as much as possible. And for me, I don't think it's. I think it's the cast
yeah,
rather than because I can't see them having any of these conversations about what was this like. What was I don't care about. That's it. I don't
that's
really
a good
care.
point.
I think even like last year, like the soap stars, like a Jacqueline Josser or an Andy Wyman. You wanted to see what they were like.
Yeah,
There's no one here who, I don't care what Shane Ritchie or what's the name, Jessica Plummer are particularly. I know what Shane Ritchie's like. He's hosted so many game shows.
yeah.
There's
And
no,
I don't think someone like him will let himself turn
no,
off
no.
either.
He's always, I suppose you won't strip behind
The
the
facade.
surface
Yeah.
facade, yeah, and yeah, it's just for me. I think if there had been someone, like a troublemaker, and I think the latecomers are going to be Russell Watson and Ruthie Henschel, so I don't think they're going to uh, ruffle any feathers or anything like that. I mean,
Russell any feathers?
I like the. Sorry, just that phone noises.
Oh, sorry. I don't know why that is. Okay, it's gone.
Um, I quite like the set, the sort of the Game of Thrones esque nature of this, almost like this dungeon that they've constructed. Reminds me a little bit of the late '80s, early '90s children's TV show Nightmare. In its maybe a little bit of a bigger budget than 1988, but there you go. But yeah, for me, I think it is let down by the cast.
Yeah.
Ant and Dec, as always, were the highlights here. I liked
The
uh, the Ant McPartlin OBE.
yeah. I think the only problem is with it is if the cast are the problem, then Ant and Dec work best when they've got somebody to poke fun at and to talk about the goings on in the camp, whether it being bitchy and stuff. If it's quite bland, they won't have a lot of material to work with.
The material in the first episode was Shane Ritchie saying he was the sexiest man at the Soap Awards, and Holly Arnold kept saying she was an MBE, so they kept going, that's Declan Donnelly, OBE.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, and I miss them like when they used to read out everyone's name on the trial and do a little joke and things like that.
Yeah.
I think it's like, we've been watching it for so many years, and there have been, like I think I said this before, but I didn't watch the 2016 series with Scarlett Moffat and Larry Lamb and that lot because they all just got on, and I think here they are all just going to get on. I can't see, as you say, early days, and as it goes on, if there is someone who sort of can't do the trials, but I think even Jordan, who was the only one who was slightly scared about the heights,
Yeah.
sort of pulled himself together by the time they all did that trial, didn't they? And I think, they would have got 10 had Beverly Callop been a little bit faster. That was the only thing that slowed him down, really. But yeah, I mean, yeah,
I mean, I said it on Twitter, but you got to applaud ITV for
I think
doing something with it. It just
yeah.
felt a bit lackluster, and you're probably right. In retrospect, it's probably down to the personalities they picked, and if it's just going to be all of them patting each other on the back all the time, then
And I think as well, as you say, the first episode is an hour and a half. We're getting out, say without the ads, 45 minutes. And
also the ads were just unbearable. That's the first ITV thing I've watched in probably since I was a celeb last year.
Enjoyed the premiere of the McDonald's Christmas adverts.
Somehow that fun was lost on me.
But I've lost my train of thought now. On the hour show, you've got the trial, which is going to take up 15 minutes. You've got them getting the meal. You've got them announcing who's doing the next trial. It will go at a bit of a faster pace. But I'm just struggling to find the personality in any of these people. They're either sort of showbiz lovies and will put on a front, or people who just aren't that interesting.
Yeah, very. I can't disagree with that.
And I think next year, just judging, but if they do go back to Oz next year, I think that judging by what we saw last week, the Jungle Story, I think it might be a sort of a Champion of Champions or a All Stars series. I think they might do that for this is the 20th time we've been in the jungle sort of thing. This is series 20 in the jungle. Let's go for it. But I agree with what you're saying that it's good to have it, even if it is in this format. I think people would miss it if it wasn't there, because it is one of Strictly. If that didn't come back, people would miss it. It's one of those things that now we look for on the calendar. It's Strictly. It's countdown to Christmas. So it's I'm a Celeb. It'll be December by the time this finishes.
Do you think the non-discerning average viewer has that feeling that we do about a cast? They probably don't watch it in the same way, do they?
Just judging by the people I work with, so most of whom watched it last night. Someone said that they stopped watching it, when they got in there. The scenes with the rucksacks and stuff was enough, and they didn't want to watch anymore. They'd had enough of the cast, really.
Oh, that's interesting.
They just found it dull, and I think that was the general consensus at work today, that it was just a bit dull. I might watch. Well, I don't know. Is it something you watch with the folks, just sort of?
It is, and to be honest, there's nothing else on, and why not?
But I might watch one or two more, just depending. If I'm by a TV when it's on, if I'm doing dishes or something, I'll have it on in the background. And I felt like I was having it on in the background last night, if I'm honest.
Did you watch it with your mum or anything?
No,
you didn't.
She's already gone to bed.
Oh, it's 9 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah. Strictly results show should be done by that point. Half of Family Fortunes, I think she bowed out on. Gino, can't be doing with Gino. But no, yet. So I think it is a subpar. It almost reminds me of the very early days before they knew what the show was.
And I suppose there is a degree of that because they don't know quite how this is going to work, do they?
Okay, so
and there's also the fact that the ratings were huge last night, and I wonder whether that was just people curious to see how it. I'm sure the ratings for Holly's first hosting show, I'm sure they were huge because people wanted to know how those two would gel, and it's going to be interesting to see how many people, like your work colleague, just thought, well, actually, I don't really want to spend time with these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's we met. I was just going to say, I know we mentioned a cast, but it's more them just saying, I don't like the people who are on it. It's same strokes, different folks.
And it's interesting because they're well known. It's not like they're nobodies. I could tell you just by name these people, and you go, oh, I know who that is. But unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily mean anything because somebody like Shane Ritchie has got a career to protect. He's not going to all of a sudden, come across awful after all these
Yeah.
years of
And I think
doing.
it's almost sometimes the people that you don't know, or the people who've come off reality TV who know how to play the game,
Mm,
are the people who sort of you remember more. Whereas
mm,
here, we've got a bunch of people who are used to sort of hosting, or like AJ dancing and whatever that Giovanna Fletcher does.
mm.
Um.
I think she
So
does a
yeah. So
podcast that gets a few
yeah.
more listens than ours.
Oh. Well, I know. I found out today she's married to Tom Fletcher. I didn't know that from
Yes,
McFly.
the surname's a giveaway.
Yeah, there's a lot of Fletchers though. She could be married to I don't know Jessica Fletcher. Um. So yeah, I'm a Celebrity. Nightly 9 o'clock on ITV.